To me, just because the story has a very similar premise does not necessarily mean that the story is going to be bad. It's all about how the writer takes the story in whatever direction they're trying to take it in. And I'm saying this because the beginning after the end reminds me highly of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Why does it remind me of this? Is because the story starts off with a man named King Gray. Now, King Gray apparently was a very sovereign ruler who dies, and they're going to the light at the end of the tunnel, which is essentially being born again. Yeah, I don't mean in the religious sense of, finding religion and then being baptized or what have you and being born again in that instance. I mean literally being born again. Like, this man has to go through being a baby one more time. However, he retains all of his knowledge from his past life, just like with Mushoku Tensei. I don't remember the main character's name in that series. Although the character Art, or Arthur, as his full name is not having weird dreams about a silhouetted figure that is supposedly one of the gods of said world. No. However, instead, Art is naturally going through the process of figuring out, what's different about this new world compared to his old one. Knowing that there are 3 core kingdoms, knowing that there is a hard magic system in place, and that there are various types of colors, and each color having its own strengths and weaknesses. Also learning that everybody gets a monocore by the time they reach adolescence. Well, Arthur, just like the main character of Mushoku Tensei, I really wish I could remember the damn kid's name. I feel stupid for not remembering it. Whatever. But just like both characters, they are prodigies in their own right. Mainly because they figured out what needed to be done at a young age and just slowly but surely went for it. So it's not essentially like they are just an outright prodigy. They just knew how to work with the situation that they're in. So far there hasn't been any major story progress in the means of plot. However, there are major progress in the means of character development, especially the character development of Arthur, as well as the development of his parents. And just like with the parents from Mushoku Tensei, they see that their son has this massive potential to be greater than, to be great basically, and send him off to a proper tutor. Now, as we know, in Mushoku Tensei, the tutor comes to them. They don't necessarily go off to a tutor. Granted, later on in Mushoku Tensei story, the main character actually goes to someone else and gets taught by someone else, which, if I remember correctly, it was like a cousin or an uncle or brother or some shit like that of the father's side. Here it seems like it's just a friend. Now the way this volume ends is with an ambush. My guess is this will go one or two ways. One, Arthur gets kidnapped by these bandits and gets some hard lessons learned, pushed onto him through essentially running with said bandits. Or this could also be a good chance for Arthur to really see mana combat in motion. Now, at the start of the story, Arthur makes mention that in his old world, there was a thing called ki. And ki was generated from within. Usually, or to utilize ki, you'd have to know how to meditate whilst in battle in order to be able to draw forth this inward energy. So in this new world, there's a thing called mana, which is all around us. There's two types of mana users. You have augmenters, those that can basically enhance their own weapons, enhance their own physical capabilities, and yada yada yada. There's those. Then you have conjurers, those that can utilize outside of their own body, which sounds like more or less a manipulation of a said element. It's not really stated outright, but once you get introduced to some characters later on and are just told with the character's name card what their conjuring style is, it's just it doesn't take a genius to realize that, oh, okay, maybe every conjurer is going to have a different type of conjuration ability. Now, there are a rarity called emitter. Emitters are someone that can create energy and take the energy and put it into somebody else. These are essentially your healers. So that's what I mean by this story has a very hard magic system set in place. And that even the aspects that go against this magic system are seen within this world as rarities. Meaning that not everybody's going to have them, and they're going to be few and far between of people that can, do this. Now, with the color cores, it's not essentially, it's really weird. So, there is a color system for the cores, and from my understanding, the weakest cores are black, which are the innate cores, and the strongest are white. That's just my assessment of it. However, there's also a statement where the strongest portion of each core is the lightness of its color. So what that means is that if somebody has a red core and the red core is a darker red, they are essentially going to be weaker than somebody that has a red core that is a light red. So it's on this weird color spectrum. Now keep in mind, this mana system that we are introduced to into this volume, I feel that it's only this way for the human race. Because we are essentially told that there's three kingdoms. One kingdom's for humans, one's for elves, and one's for dwarves. So my guess is that possibly the magic used by the elves and dwarves might be used a bit differently than how it's used by the humans. Sometimes this is the case, other times it is not the case. Sometimes it's just how society will utilize magic differently. Think of like Black Clover, for example, where you have the residents of the Clover Kingdom all using books, right? However, when you have the residents of, like, say, the Heart Kingdom, they don't use grimoires, that's what they're fucking called. They don't use grimoires. Instead, they lay out, if I remember correctly, it's ruins. So, Like that, for example, when it comes to a potential difference between humans and elves and dwarves. Now, do I know there's a potential difference? No, I don't. So right now, I'm going to take it as the rules of the magic system within the story are governed towards all three races, or all three known races. And with that being said, what did you guys think of the beginning after the end, Volume 1? Let me know in the comments down below. In case you're wondering how many chapters this volume has, for those of you that read this initially in Webtoon app or online somewhere else, it starts at chapter 1, ends at chapter 8. So this is 8. So this collects the first 8 chapters of the series. Excuse me. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel and then hit that notification icon. That way you'll know when I put out more content in the future. As well as, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. That way the algorithm knows that my content is worth watching and it makes me feel good. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Ciao for now.